Good evening. You are listening live to the Extreme Movie Show. I am your host, Rob, broadcasting to you from the Pine Hills Palace just west of Orlando, Florida. I am in the Extreme Studios. I'm talking with RDV from the Great Midwest, and we're going to be reviewing for you, ladies and gentlemen, tonight one of the sexiest films starring some of the sexiest people and some of the sexiest scenes out of the 1990s. Of course, I'm talking about Robert Rodriguez's film based off his Mariachi trilogy. The second one, of course, Desperado, aka the Salma Hayek and Antonio Banderas film. And I'll just start for RDV by saying that normally, I always talk about plot and character, and if somebody you get emotionally attached to goes into it. But when we talk about other types of films like exploitations and they just work on a subversive level, I think that's how you should view this film, because it's a revenge film to me. But all I was reminded of when I watched this film is how much I like Robert Rodriguez's style. And I'm going to do a quick hot take here and then hand it to you. I prefer his films over Quentin Tarantino's. But I forgot just how insanely hot Antonio is, as well as Selma. And I'm glad to see them make sweet, sweet love in an old classic 90s style here, biting chins and, licking and all sorts of stuff that gets poo-poo today. And I just got to say, it's a fun film, not very deep, pleasure to watch, and a lot of great acting. Antonio's always great. I've always mentioned before, but we've never focused on him. And she's just a sight to behold as well, too. But she's a good actress as well and can handle her own. What's your initial take on this? I want to ask you, as always, sometimes I always forget, was this a first watch?
This is a first watch for me. I've seen parts of it before and stuff, like trailer stuff, but I never actually sat down and watched it. If I saw before live, I actually watched the third movie first. Or at least
Johnny Depp one.
Yeah, Johnny Depp one, because that was always on freaking TV. This came out in 1995. You're looking at the movies that were it was going up against. You had GoldenEye just came out. You had the second Ace Ventura, or When Nature Calls, I think it was. Was that the first one?
Yes, When Nature Calls.
Yeah. You had Seven, you had Jumanji, you had Apollo 13, Batman Forever, and Toy Story were the big things.
And half of the movies there is not my type of movies, but boy, that's still a good year.
I know, but you also had Tales of the Crypt, Demon Knight.
Yes.
The Final Dimension of Highlander. Like 1985 was pretty much like just like the highlight of the 90s.
No 85, but I'll take it compared to 2025.
The Quick and the Dead, Billy Madison. Look at all the movies that came out at 95.
Oh boy, Billy Madison.
Yeah, exactly right. Man of the House. That one too. But Outbreak, yeah. So there's a lot to choose from in 1995. From Dusk Till Dawn, I believe, was a year later in 96.
Correct.
So never seen El Mariachi, but coming in, I figured, well, let's look for something we haven't done yet. I know we've talked about doing another Antonio Banderas movie since we did Zorro. And I was like, well, we've got a young Salma Hayek in here too. Why not? Steve Buscemi's in the cast. Cheech Martin, it's like, and then even what's his name? Quentin Tarantino makes a little cameo in this.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot of familiar faces from movies that would go on later from Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez too. And I certainly have no problem with that. It's like we've talked about with old guys. You find a group of people you like working with, you keep them in your films.
Yeah. Danny Trejo is in here too.
Yeah, actually looking good.
The bad guy, Bucho, played by Joaquim DeAlmeida. I've seen him in many films before this. Actually, a year before this, he came out. He was in the Clear and Present Danger movie.
Okay.
Yeah, he was with Harrison Ford. I remember seeing him also in Fast Five. I think he was one of the villains. Then he made an appearance in The Hitman's Bodyguard, which was Salma Hayek again. So I mean, like, he's been in a couple of their movies. Not really a big movie star, but he's that guy who has that face. I always called him the Portuguese
lover boy, assassin, playboy.
Who's the guy who played Highlander? Connor
Connery?
No, Connor McLeod.
Connor McLeod. That guy. Yeah, him.
Yeah, the French actor. The French actor. I gotta look it up now because he looks just like him. I always laugh when I ever see the movie.
Oh, if he shaves here, you would see that. Yes,
he looks like Christopher Lambert.
Yes, he does actually.
Yeah, every time I know. So every time and especially in this movie, it's like he's the Portuguese Christopher Lambert. It's like surprised they never did a movie together, but like they could be like twins, But and thing about this being Robert Rodriguez movies, you're always you're gonna have fun with these. And as you said, it's a fun movie because it's not really a big strong plot. The plot is about revenge, a lot of guns, and you got a little bit of humor there too, and you got a lot of bloodshed, like Robert Rodriguez. When someone gets their hand blown off, you see the chunks, you see the blood spray. So this is kind of like a prequel to like From Dusk Till Dawn in that sense, the style he was doing his films. Because he had done was a year or two before this El Mariachi. It was mainly towards a Spanish speaking crowd. It was released on VHS in English dub, but it didn't really take off. So he decided to swap out and get Antonio Banderas in on this, who was kind of at this point, it was kind of I don't think he really did much.
No, I will tell you that you mentioned a lot of the popular movies out there, and again, this is still in the mid '90s. You had people talking about the films they were seeing, so it's exciting. And I remember a lot of people kept to me going, "Hey, Rob, you got to check this film out. This guy is really kind of cool in it." They're trying to explain to me the gunfights. I'm like, okay, so there's a gunfight out. What's the big deal? But then, like you say, the stylized kind of nature that he does is interesting because Robert Rodriguez, he's more of a John Carpenter. I kind of do everything on my own thing with the zooms and just being involved in all the parts. And it's a very low budget film, right? And Antonio just has a great, what I call charisma. Now, here's the thing about Antonio, about him. I mean, physically, he's an incredibly looking guy. I mean, but he's totally what I prefer watching as we went from the beefy, hunky man meat type guys physically in the 80s going into the 90s, where they went to small 140-pound wet, wimpy ass vampires that were not manly or sexy.
Yes.
And then you got Antonio, who's a Broadway kind of guy. I mean, the guy's classically trained, is excellent. He can sing a little bit, but he's not a rich baritone. He moves very fluidly. You can buy him doing action stuff. And he's not a big guy. He might be 5'8", 160 tops, right? But he carries himself very classically, and where you believe that this is a man or a gentleman. And when you and I talked about Zorro, I mentioned that, but I cannot stress enough that this is when everybody said, you got to see it. And then everyone would talk about Salma Hayek in the same way. Just absolutely jaw-dropping, stunning, watching, just a natural beauty, right? Just like Catherine Zeta-Jones, who I believe is Welsh, maybe like half German, half whatever. Just the same kind of parallels, but like years earlier.
Yeah. The other thing that really draws you to is the fact that this is a new take on a spaghetti western.
Yeah, that's all.
He's basically got a guitar, and you have Steve Buscemi, who's this buddy who's going around telling the news about laying on thick and all about this guy.
This is the old Gambit.
Yeah,
he walks into a bar.
With Cheech Martin there, and he's like, "Give me a beer," and he's like, "Oh, we got his beer tastes like piss," and he's like, "It's the best beer I've had." Just in the last bar, I was like, "What do you mean the last bar?" It's like, yeah, this guy walks in, this tall, biggest Mexican I've ever seen. He's like, I love how Steve Buscemi always exaggerates stuff.
I think when I saw that, I got to tell you, he came across as like not acting well. But then as his story went on, and then when you find out that he's working with El Mariachi, you're like, that's good acting.
Yeah, it's like tells a story about how this guy walks in. He's got this case. He doesn't say what is in it though. He just says he has a case, whatever. Next thing I know, everybody's like, he asked for a guy named Bucho, and then they all perk up because nobody cared before. And he's like, they're like, what do this guy's face look like? And all like, oh, I only saw his eyes, stuff. And like he basically says like everybody pulled their guns on him. He drops down, grabs guns. People are being here, there. It's kind of reminds me of if you watched like Event or Iron Man or that stuff, when people start moving with their hands, pointing this stuff, I love that sort of storytelling. Like bang bang here, bang bang here. It's like
you tell a story with your body too.
Yeah, and it can really captivate if it's focused on you.
Yes.
And that's what Steve Buscemi kind of does with here in this. And he talks about how everyone pretty much died. He's like, except for he's like the bartender, and Cheech Martin's like, haha. He's like, yeah, the bartender always lives. See that? He's like, well, not really. As he's leaving, the bartender pulls out a shotgun, and you see this. He's going. They're going from the scene with El Mariachi taking out people in the bar, but they're going back to Steve Buscemi talking in the bar, the presence. And I love how they just go back and forth. And he says, like, yeah, the bartender died, and he's like, so then he leaves, and then you said it. He goes to the hotel. You see, what's his name? Laying there, he's having a dream, having a nightmare about how he was playing guitar and stuff. It's really good and stuff. And then this guy basically takes him out from the bar. This guy in his white suit and shoots his girlfriend, and then shoots him in the hand, so he can left hand so no longer play guitar. So he wants revenge. And as he wakes up, Steve Buscemi's there, and they just basically kind of like bullshit back and forth, talk and stuff. And he tells them, "Hey, this guy." When I mentioned Bucho, then they perked up. Nobody gave a what I was talking about until I mentioned that name. So he's like, "Okay, go there."
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes to the bar. Well, before he even gets to the bar, we're introduced to Quentin Tarantino goes there with another guy. Guy's missing his 3 front teeth.
Yes.
And they're obviously there to basically those two score some cocaine or something. Some kind of drugs. And I love this because the bar is so freaking dirty and everything in this. It's disgusting in there. And then he's like, all right, they're sitting there. He's telling another story about and like they're not really having it. Well, the other guy's is a guy who works for Cheech Marin. He's on the phone and says like, yeah, the other guy didn't, So the Cheech Marin shoots the other dude in the head, saying he didn't pass the test. Takes him back, and they go to the stall. It's the most disgusting looking stall ever. It's out of order. It's a shit in the toilet and everything. It's all over the floor. And he's like,
yeah. Every time on TV and movies, when you see a bathroom, they're always nice and neat. They should be disgusting like this because anywhere you go, that's how they are.
Yeah, it's because they're in a hole in wall in like Mexico, obviously, and stuff. And basically, this panel opens up. They go through there. And he's like kind of going through while they're in there. Then Mariachi walks in and he's telling people, he's like, hey, don't shoot, do whatever. He's like, they're like, what's in your case? Because they're all scared because they heard about the story with the guy carrying a case, and they see it's his guitar. The only problem is that he's got a false bottom. The guy's and it pops open and he reveals all his grenades and guns and stuff. So then we get this whole bar fight scene. Quentin Tarantino gets popped in the face and dead, killed backstage because he thinks that he's in the league with the guy. And like I said, at the end of this, the guy who was on the phone, he's the last guy living, and he follows him out, and he says he's about to kill him. You see, he is where he meets Salma Hayek. Salma Hayek was I love this because he's walking, he's already wounded in the arm, and he basically is walking there, and the guy's getting ready to shoot. Her eyes go up.
He's so damn good looking.
Yeah, I know. Here. Yes.
Oh my God, like a bad boy. You can't compete against that.
He sees the look in her eyes of fear, so he quick ducks, turns around, and then he pops the guy, kills him, and then she carries him to her bookstore. Because not only is she a hot Latina, she's also runs a bookstore that these parents.
And she's wearing a summer dress, which we don't see nearly enough. Oh my goodness!
Yes, I mean the '90s, man. Summer dresses,
man. Yeah.
So
let me say this up to this point. Yeah. What I like about what Rodriguez has done in this, writing it, directing it, filming it, all that, is that you get the guy walks into a bar, which everybody's kind of familiar with that setup. You get this kind of stupid story, half-assed told, but then you realize actually there's layers to it. And so it's pumping up a mythology about a character we haven't met yet. And then when he has his flashback dream, so where you see really 2 parts. You see him doing the whole thing about killing everybody and all that, and it's there and it's stylized and all that. But the point is, the way they show me, you don't see his face and you see all that. Looks just great. It looks larger than life, and and he says he's the largest Mexican I'd ever seen.
I know. Right?
And then when he does the other bit of a flash sequence, there is when he's playing music in a band and he's playing a guitar. Now I will tell you, as a amateur guitarist myself, I know Antonio sings. I've seen him perform some songs on Broadway, and he guitar too, which is a thing. But he's definitely fretting and playing it. But I'm not saying that's him, because Los Lobos did the music.
Yeah.
But you can definitely tell the guy's not just Taylor Swifting it and faking it on guitar, right? So the thing about him is he's just got the total package. He's a triple threat. He can act, he can dance, he can sing, and he's got that charisma that a lot of actors just don't have.
I want to point out there's another thing going on here too, because he meets this boy while he's sitting on the curb, and this boy has a guitar, and he basically
this is a great.
He can't help it, but he helps show the kid some chords. So the kid plays the tune and all that stuff, and he teaches them. And then he's like, "Here, now practice that. When next time I see you, I'll teach you some more chords to go with the song. I just taught you." And so after the whole bar scene where he shoots up the bar and stuff, he leaves stuff. We see basically his Bucho comes over. And he's like, "Dude, what's going on here?" And he's in the bar, and then he sees everybody's dead. I love this with the Americans. It's like 3 times you have a bunch of Americans or tourists come in who think they're like, "Oh my gosh, where's my service?"
Funny.
I know. It was like the first one. It was like the service is like, it's like, "Where's our waiter?"
Don't expect a tip. Okay.
he's like, He's like, well, I'm not gonna ask you out anyway. You look, it's like you lost cause, or So then later on, it's like when the kids come in there and they're like, they stand there. He's like, can't you tell we're fucking clothes? The body's there, and they leave. Obviously, the cops. I didn't see a single cop whatsoever in this whole entire movie.
Not a little town, absolutely not.
Because the cartel runs it.
That's right.
Yes.
Like most of Mexico.
Yeah. And of course, you got the Mexicans, the cartel dealing with the Colombians, and stuff. So they're all on high alert because someone's taking out their men, but they're trying to keep it hush because they don't want to botch this deal because the Bucho's afraid of the Colombians. And so anyway, so as he's after the tourists leave, and he looks out and he's standing at the bar, and he hears this music come up behind her on the corner, and he recognizes it. Like, what? It's the same music that
El Mariachi.
El Mariachi was playing in the beginning of the movie when he's yes.
Like, when you get better at this, I'll show you too that when you get faster.
Yes.
And I'm like, I like this.
Yeah. So he recognized the song. He's like, and he quickly looks around and he sees it's the kid playing it.
Yeah.
Saw before. So obviously he puts two and two together. He's like, now I know who the guy is. Who is basically doing this. And plus, he also had a note from the bartender before he died. I think he's like, Cheech Martin does die. He gets killed or something.
He gets whacked. Yeah.
He gets whacked. And he basically had a note that says, like, a guy got a guitar case. And so looking for Bucho. And so they thought it was because it confirms it wasn't a random hit. It was somebody he actually knows. And that's why he hears that song. He actually knows it's personal. So he knows who it was. He knows it's Centennial Banderas. And then so he's on high alert, and then we go back to the bookstore, and like where he's basically he wakes up and he's like, oh, what did you give me? He's like, painkiller. He's like, what? And he looks over and she's like, yeah, because I'm operating on you. She's taking the bullet out of his shoulder.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize that early on in relationships, some of the most promising things you can do for long-term emotional attachment and development as a pair bond, as we would like to say in the biological sense, is that you got to argue and be passionate early on. And then also you've got to be mortally injured enough where the woman has an excuse to see how much of a tough guy you are by, sewing you up with stitches that she read out of a book. I mean, honestly, that's how I met my wife. So I'm just going to tell you, it worked for me.
Yeah. I'm just gonna say this:
young 27 pixel. Yes, that's called flirting. That's exactly what happens.
No, flirting is when you're both are drag racing down a cliff road and both sports cars.
There's multiple forms passion could take. That would be what I call the Caucasian American experience versus the Latin experience, right? But either one would work.
So. It's just kind of funny because, now we know there's something more about this girl. She obviously we learned that she has a bookstore. She says that it closed early. She's like, well, she's making a difference. Like, why is that? Because no one really buys phone reads around here. Because I was like, you have a bookstore, and all we see from anybody around here is just this. They're just criminals. They're scum. They're scumbags. It's like she's got to have something good going on that because most people would have just left, but she grabbed onto him for a reason. There's something else going on with her.
So you really have the reformation of the family unit in this film, actually, if you think about it.
You do. But I don't want to spoil the whole family connection towards the end here. But her though, I said she has some personal vendetta. There's more that I got the feeling that she's lying about her parents and all that stuff because why would she? It doesn't seem normal for someone to take a guy in who obviously was basically just murdered a bunch of people, and she knows she admits that you're the guy who's been doing around stories, the boogeyman stuff. Obviously his attraction to him, but there's more to it. It feels like she kind of wants to use him for something.
Exactly, which I thought could have been a more interesting angle, but it's just basically. They're super hot for each other when they're walking. And initially, when he's wounded, then he protects her. I'm going to have sex with him. He's my way out. I've got lots of money. We have resources. It's very clear that that's what's happening, even if it's not intended to be that way. And you don't really know that because the focus is on revenge, right? So I think they had to then show you that, hey, even though she seems somewhat innocent, to your point, she's a little bit smarter and craftier on it. She's been saving all the money. What money? The money that the guy, El Bucho, pays her to run this all that because it's a drug front thing, just like the kid runs drugs too. So nobody's innocent in this.
You look at this as a Western movie. She'd be the girl who'd be running the brothel. And here comes the guy, the outlaw comes in, and then they both team up.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just felt like a spaghetti western. Yeah. Spoilers for a 30-year-old movie. Well, we have to spoil it. You might as well.
So the end of it, I mean, like you said, it's a lot of setup there. But what happens is El Bucho hires the knife guy to take
Danny
him
Trejo.
out. Well,
Danny fucking Trejo.
And Trejo, this is kind of this is a great way to introduce small people into your films that can become something, because this later on would become Machete, or Machete as they like to say.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was kind of neat showing something there. And so whatever you think of the knife fight and all that, I certainly didn't mind it, and it added a little flavor to it, which is what this movie's about. And then when he finds out that he's the wrong guy, he gets kind of pissy. And then eventually, when they go to attack them and they go to escape, that's when El Mariachi and her are on a roof. They're escaping, and he has a gun, and he's getting ready to take a shot at him, and he recognizes him, and he won't pull the trigger.
Yeah,
like, wait a minute.
They don't say why, but he just won't pull the trigger now.
But here's what I was thinking. I'm going to go back to the beginning, because again, not a deep movie, but looking at it from the family formation perspective, he had a woman, been violently taken away from him, so he's all in revenge mode. And even Steve Buscemi's character early on, when he comes to and they're talking, he's like, I got to ask you, I don't have the stomach for this. And he's like, you never did. And he's like, let me ask you a question. What is it? And he's like, what happens when you're done? And it's that philosophical thing. He goes, then it's over. But the point is, you don't have a life. You have nothing to look forward to, right? And when he says, well, you never had the stomach for it, and he goes, well, when you started this, you didn't either. And it's done in a comic way. And I thought Stevie did great, because he gets whacked. So we find out at the end.
Before I was to say, Steve actually reaches out to him before at the priest, at the confessional, before El Mariachi runs into Danny Trejo at the knife fight scene. Tells him that you need to stop this, But Steve Buscemi, he's a great side character and everything, supporting character. I love him in every movie he's in.
Yeah, they basically end up going to the big boss layer at the end and having a shut, but that's when he recognizes him. It's like being a brother and all that. And then of course they basically
she's mad because she wants to shoot him. It's like, and I'm thinking like right then and there, it's like, what the heck, man?
All right, there's a twist.
they just burned down her bookstore.
Yeah,
and that's when he ran into the kid. That's when his brother ran into the kid who was playing the music. Yeah, and he recognizes the music, and then he recognizes his brother down there in the scope, and he's like, he leaves, and so it was just kind of like, I said, not much of a plot, more so it's basically, you see it the thumbnail and stuff. It's flames, it's people who are scorned. Guy loses girl, guy meets other girl, hotter girl. And then on his quest to go after a guy who basically murdered his previous girlfriend and wounded him, and turns out that it's his brother at the end. And then he's like, so his brother's like, well, you killed all my men, but hey, I forgive you, but Dad would be pissed off the fact that you did this, so, but there's a price. You take from me, I take from you. This is your new girlfriend. He's getting rid of the shooter, Carolina, but he's like, you see him, he's like, no. Because he has her. Guns pop up on his sleeves. I always love that. The old Western trick. They have like little gun pops up.
Yeah.
So you saw this in Justified with Neil McDonough. Little gun pops up, and he just shoots his brother multiple times. And then because and then we get this whole gunfight scene and stuff. And he sees the kid. He has to take the kid to the one who was with the guitar was injured, and he rushed to the hospital. And then he can kind of, you see a little confession, him confessing to the kid. He's like, I killed a lot of people's fathers and stuff. And then, he's like, he confesses. The kid makes it. But, so he, at the hospital, he decides, pretty much they decides, I can't be with you, whatever. So he leaves. But then he's walking down the highway. She shows up in the Jeep, and she's like, you son of a bitch, get in. And it's kind of like Commando.
Well, the thing about it is they got the kid. And so he decides, you know what? It's over, so now I can go be a husband again, the family unit. So he just drops his guitar case out there on the ground, and you get the zoom in on it. And then a moment later, you just see the car backing up, and they pick it up just for the future or whatever. So like I say, that's kind of your family formation kind of story part that you don't really see at the beginning. And that's probably the only real depth that it has. But this movie's really not about that. It's to me a very simple, like you said, Western exploitation type movie. That's all it was meant to be. And sometimes when you watch a movie, just, you You go, yeah, that really wasn't that deep of a movie, but damn, it was just really fun to watch. And one of the things I do remember about the movie back then was that it was considered to be extremely violent, and I looked at that as more of the fake kind of violence that's not scary just because you got gallons of buckets of blood. It was not a big deal at that time. People were like, oh, it's too violent, and then they had to chop it down and take scenes out and stuff. And I just don't remember if I've seen the unedited version or not or what. But it's a fun movie. It's a great summer type movie.
Yeah. So we want to know how it's connected to the first movie. The first movie is Carlos Gallardo shows up in here towards the end. He is Campa. He is one of the two guys with he's the guy with the machine gun suitcase.
Yes.
Yeah, it's guitar case. And then he had his other buddy who had the rocket launcher. I thought that was kind of funny. He looks at him like, really? He's like, it's like compensating. But they both get killed in the gunfight,
Mm-hmm.
So that's your kind of connection to that, is like, as with the first movie. Very loose. But it's basically the same story about a guy for revenge, kind of. So, like I said, I've only seen parts of the third one because it was on freaking TV all the time. Fox would play it, on like their edited stuff. So I always see I remember from the third movie, Once Upon a Mexico, is the fact that it's got Salma Hayek and you got Antonio Banderas and then Johnny Depp, who's a blind assassin or FBI agent or whatever,
Yeah, at this point with Johnny Depp, I mean, I've never hated him. I do appreciate how he takes sometimes quirky, unique roles. He's got some good films, but I was never in love with him because I look at him and I go, I can't take him seriously as a tough guy. I can't take him seriously as like a heavy. I can't take him as a
I liked him as Tonto.
Done it, but he does do some stuff,
Yeah, I liked him as Tonto in the Lone Ranger movie. I thought he was pretty good. I
refused to see that movie.
It was a good movie. I liked it for what it was.
Okay. Loved him in The Ninth Gate, late 90s. Yeah. Go for 98. Go figure.
I said Johnny Depp's best role for me.
Brasco was good.
His best role for me is as the Pirates of the Caribbean role.
No, I don't like those at all.
I like his character, his portrayal, and everything.
Yeah, he did Sleepy Hollow, right?
Sleepy Hollow was good too.
And then he did Blow.
I never watched that.
He had a string of some.
I don't watch Swordfist either, so I didn't watch those two movies. I was like, okay. I just walked past them at Blockbuster, but like, nope. But I know, but yeah, Johnny Depp didn't take off until his appearance in that Tom Petty video. But no, like I said, this was a very fun movie, and I kind of want to start doing some more 90s again. We'll get back into that. We want to get into the assassins, the specialists, some of those Long Kiss Goodbye.
Yeah, the I don't know that it was this film specifically, but like we've talked about obviously like the specialist and assassins and all that with Antonio in that one, but the whole idea that assassins became cool and hip in 90s film.
Verity saying like, yeah, don't watch the third movie, it's not very that good. I'm thinking like, well, we watch movies that aren't very good. We watch Stop or My Mom Will Shoot with Stallone. We review a lot of good things, and we review a lot of mid things. We review a lot of things that I wish we didn't watch, but we review it. There's no such thing as a bad review.
Yeah, this is a film that you just don't go, oh, you're going to watch it, you see a masterclass and snap. But again, I still say that no matter what the movie is or how it's written, you can say you've got the greatest story or it's something that's got an important message, and I understand it. But then there's the cultural timing of when it goes out. Like most people don't watch the 10 Commandments anymore. I'm just putting it out there. You can say you like the film or hate it, and it doesn't get shown a lot. But those kind of movies just don't. And I'm not saying people still don't try to make them here and there, right?
I was gonna say, growing up, it's like I never really watched it, but I watched like parts of it, the 10 Commandments. But it's always on Easter on ABC.
Exactly.
It was aired it there. So I always remember it being on the TV. I wasn't watching it, but it was on TV in the background in the house.
Same thing with I've talked about with the Charlie Brown specials, right?
Yes.
Pumpkin, you see that
right now, Walmart has them. The 6-disc collection again. So if you want all the different holiday specials, Charlie Brown, those are out right now. I was picked up for $60. They had all the monster movies, classic monster movies. I was just like, man, that's a lot of them. But I kind of like. And speaking of Halloween, I kind of want to get back into like, I want to do another Universal movie that we didn't do last year, along with some more Hammer films.
Yes.
I think we'll do that and get Pixel involved in those too.
Yeah, overall a fun film. I was thankful when I watched it at the time because since then I said I don't know who this guy is. Actually, no, I'm going to back up here. I totally forgot to mention this at the beginning, and I apologize.
Yeah.
I don't know that we reviewed this, but it was on I believe some of my top 10 lists of the year. The most amount of Latino heat I've ever seen on film together is Antonio Banderas and Armand Asante and the Mambo Kings, where you see them doing stuff, and that's just
Never reviewed it. That's one of his very first movies, isn't it?
exactly for both of them, and they both went in their own directions. Both did really good stuff, but I just remember watching that, and then when this one came out, I went, "Oh, it's got one of the guys from Mambo Kings," because I think in one of the loaded weapon type movies, Armand Asante is in one of them. Might be one of the Naked Guns, and I remember going, "Okay, I don't know who's." Guy is, but he's just worth watching. And here's the thing about Antonio: not only does he look good and moves well, and I'm saying this with all professional respect, there are certain people and I still say this about Charlton Heston. There are certain people that when they talk, it's like you're just drawn and hypnotized to him. The way he speaks is the classic old school Spanish. I mean, there's different versions of it, but it's very cultured, and his accent and his timing and half whispering, it's great. And I'm telling you, he's got, for a little guy, he's just got charisma and presence. And I've seen him in a lot of these shitty B movies that nobody was ever heard of or whatever.
Mhm.
And I still go, they're watchable because of him. And you can't really take that away from somebody generally, unless they totally check out or get completely shit faced in drugs, and bad stuff, right?
So he did Mambo Kings 92, and then he was in that crappy movie Philadelphia with Tom Hanks as his gay lover.
You know what? People liked that movie. Whether you wanted to see that kind of a movie because of the content at the time, that was very divisive, culturally speaking, especially, the year it came out. That AIDS has been around for quite some time. And, AIDS was related to Fauci too, which people don't think about. But for him to do that as an actor, it's...
He got a role in the Interview with the Vampire because he did that movie with House of Spirits with Meryl Streep, Jeremy Irons, Glenn Close, one writer. So looking at his wiki right now, so because I never really looked up his IMDb. I just know he did these movies, and then he did Zorro, where those were his big things, and then he just became Puss in Boots for the rest of his life.
And I haven't seen those, which that's fine, and those are those kind of movies, right? But I tell you, Zorro is just a tremendous film, and it's directed. I think it's by Guy Hamilton that that directed some of the. It was involved in a lot of the Bond franchises, so it's a shame because, for the most part, especially in the 90s, as you pointed out, when VHS was still a thing and people were going to films, you also started to get DVDs a little later, right? And so people were getting to home theaters in the mid to late 90s, expensive, but still it was mind-blowing to have that quality at home. So this is the kind of movie that you go, okay, if they're going to make it R-rated instead of unrated or X in the theaters, I can at least get the unrated version on that home physical copy. So it wasn't until maybe about 20 years ago that people started noticing, like with Charlie Brown or like here or like with professional sports, they cut away from the national anthem or my team, the Washington Redskins, that just beat the Chargers 27-10. That they don't want them when they're singing "Hail to the Redskins" because how PC everything is. And Amazon, is horrible as Lord of the Rings is taking a lot of shit right now. Hopefully more so, because now they completely control the entire James Bond franchise, and now they're whitewashing all the guns out of it and editing out of their films, including smoking. It's like, just leave the fucking art alone by the people who made it. Let us decide. You
look at his career starting in 2000s. He started doing Spy Kids, started getting into the kid stuff.
Sure.
But he was still doing movies like Original Sin with Angelina Jolie, and then he did Frida with Salma Hayek again.
Yes.
And then he was in Femme Fatale, the Brian De Palma.
I love that film.
Rebecca Romaine.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Then they did it Once Upon a Time in Mexico, and then he goes and then he was he directed Crazy in Alabama, which they did really well. So, and then like I said, I didn't realize he was married to Melanie Griffith, so he was taking John Johnson's sloppy seconds. Jeez. Then he was he did Managing Argentina with Emma Thompson, and then he was still doing Broadway stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he said then he basically started going into he did Pancho Villa. He did that and starring Pancho Villa as himself. Some show he did in 2003. It's like he just kind of after Zorro, he kind of his career was going to do a couple more movies, and after that was just kind of him doing a lot of Broadway, and then he finally landed Puss in Boots in Shrek. Cameos in there, and then he got his own movies.
Yeah, and I don't know a lot about his marriage situation and all that, but he's obviously at the age with kids or family that he's able to pick and choose what he wants to do. And so sometimes if you think of somebody as an actor in film, you go, okay, if you're going to pay me 10, 15 million per James Bond movie and sign me a 5-year contract, you're actually paying me not to be James Bond. You're paying me to be James Bond when you film it, but you're also committing me to certain times of the year and certain things. So I can't take other jobs. So there's a premium, an additional amount that has to get paid. And someone like him that I'm sure has done well, has been very active, considered, so you know what? If I'm going to do a 6-month run on Broadway or off Broadway or something in Spain or a traveling tour or whatever like that, I can book it. So again, I appreciate when people get to kind of pick and choose all that. That doesn't mean they always make the best choices. You and I have even talked about with classic actors like Humphrey Bogart. He was on a lot of films that you know nothing about until all of a sudden he started hitting it big because he needed to be cast in the role that worked for him as a heavy guy, and and like that, despite not necessarily being what we would call classically good looking, handsome in an adult way. But Antonio is just he's just so good. Someone's really good too. And look, if you're that good looking, let's be honest. Yeah, life's supposed to be easier for you, especially as a woman when you're younger.
Yeah.
As an actor, you have a physical look. That's what people see, whether you agree with it or not. It determines a lot of what's going on. Yeah. Selma's aged so well. Yeah. Even her, she did a movie a few years ago I saw where invaders are coming into her flat and she like kills them all off one by one. It's very bloody.
Yeah. I forgot what it's called, but that's
it's not bad, right?
Yeah,
but she's done it before. She's not really pushing herself.
I still liked her in the Hitman's Bodyguard. I thought she was pretty well in there too.
Oh, The Skin I Live In.
Yes. I was gonna get to that, but first I wanted. She's dreaming up the Crystal's Call. You say, I believe she's not all your good movies with bad. I wish I didn't watch Crystal's Call. My equivalent to that would be Die Hard with a Vengeance. That was so horrible. But The Skin I Live In, that was just messed up. That was disgusting. I know,
but body horror is its own like sci-fi concept that people can't get into.
Guy loses his wife, and basically like the guy who basically killed his wife basically adopts him, and forces almost gives him a sex change, just because he could try and later bone him. Only be killed by him.
Pedro, the director's done some interesting things.
Yeah.
But even David Cronenberg, I think I reviewed something here around Halloween years ago. I don't know if it was Shivers or Outbreak or something like that, but it was basically there. It's like in Toronto or wherever that's filmed. Yeah. And it's basically people turning into zombies. It's one of the first like Contagion type movies that's out there. And this is before China Syndrome and all that. And it's body horror and it's pretty interesting. And like a high rise on a island up in Montreal or something. And so body horror, people think of David Cronenberg redoing The Fly, which was done in the 50s, but that was more like a mad scientist where body horror could get disgusting. But actually a very good movie that I think they let it down by going comedy wise, and it was the one that had Demi Moore in it last year. And now when Verity said, "Oh, The Skin I Live In," I went, "Oh yeah, that was another one." So these things can be pretty good vehicles for stuff. And I just, somebody can have a big catalog, doesn't mean you've seen it all. But again, am I going to go see Puss in Boots? Maybe if I had kids, I would go see it. Or
I watched it, dude. And I have nieces. I watched it by myself. It was actually pretty funny.
Yeah. I just wonder, I've known an actress or two over the years here in Central Florida that's gone on to LA and done stuff. And I've known a few guys have done some acting. So, and we've all come across beautiful people, I just think, in life, right? And so I look at somebody and I go, sometimes they don't realize how easy they have it. Doesn't mean they're a good or bad human being. But you look at Salma and I just go, you take the beauty away from her. She's still a good actress. And she still looks competent when she's handling guns and all that kind of stuff. You take somebody like Anna de Armas, a lot of people for some reason I think is hot, and also like Sydney Sweeney. And I'm not knocking both of them when I say this, but the best description I've had of both is their Down syndrome kids, because sometimes the camera doesn't capture them right. Has the camera ever not captured Selma right, or Antonio? They're just so good looking. I'm just saying, it's one of those things that's like,
no, I'm trying to see if that was was it Americano? Was that the name of the movie?
With Demi Moore? No, it has the one girl in it that was also in Once Upon a Time in America. It was about.
I'm not talking about Demi Moore. I'm talking about Salma Hayek, where the one where she was the one where she was basically the girl, basically the guns and stuff. That Everly, that's what it was.
Beverly or Everly?
Everly, with the E.
Everly. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, and you can tell looking at that's like $1 million movie as far as the budget, right?
5.1 IMDb 2014.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm guessing that one of the people didn't like is the fact that it was basically it was El Mariachi. It was just like this gun violence again, and I guarantee a lot of people were just at this. It makes sense because in 2015, yeah, that's right. That's kind of when comic books started getting this whole point where they started switching and it started getting this whole we're anti-gun narrative, or we're anti, conservative values. So the things that were great in the 90s, those are tragic or what you call it, they're problematic. You shouldn't be praising guns. You shouldn't be sexifying women, stuff like that. Honestly, this was a dark comedy action thriller. But that's what it says. A kidnapped woman faces down a hitman sent by a mob boss, aka her captor, while trying to protect her family from his wrath. Yeah, and it looks good. I don't know how this didn't do better. But apparently because maybe it was in theaters, or maybe it was
made for the second screen, as we like to start saying the lingo, meaning they make it professional enough where it can go just straight to like Netflix, and Netflix can give them a couple million for it, and then they have the rights for it, and that pays for the movie, and it's something you have on while you're doing dishes or something.
She's trapped in a hotel room with this guy. That was, and literally, you see the trailer. She's got a sack full of money, her go bag, and then there's all these guys like with cars and like guns, SWAT people, snipers, and then she's trapped in the place. So she basically has to try to get out of here without dying. And maybe like the fact that she was in her underwear for like a good chunk of the movie. Yeah.
Now she's petite. She's like 5 foot tall. You may not know that by looking at her.
No, she's short. Oh yeah. Oh, watch the Hitman's Bodyguard. Look how short she is.
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds obviously 6'3" or 6'2" right around there. Doesn't watch.
Ryan Reynolds is that tall?
He's tall.
I thought he was like 5'10", 5'11".
I think he's right around there.
Okay. Huh.
He's as tall. He was almost as tall as The Rock is.
No, I don't believe that for a minute. Rock's maybe 6'3", legit.
Ryan Reynolds is.
Don't put him at 6 foot, even if he's 5'11".
Ryan Reynolds is 6'2".
Yeah, not buying it. He could be.
He is. Go watch the movies again. Go watch the what was it, Red Notice?
I will watch him when his trial becomes public with the guy that trying to like knock out.
I haven't paid attention to that, but I got a feeling it's just gonna be swept under the rug.
Oh man, she just needs to shut her mouth. I think Ryan's trying to tell her that he's a bit of a wimp with her.
Yeah, and the thing is, everybody hates him because it's like he's related to her because that's his wife. It's like, and they paint him as being a bad person. Here's the thing, though. Neither the people, the guy suing, Connor suing, and her, they all look horrible. So.
But the control freak in all this, it's Ryan. That's the thing.
He just wants to be free guy.
No, it's just this. Here's the thing. I'll kind of start closing up with this a little bit about Robert Rodriguez taking a step back here. Now, I know that because how this is it's a fun film. It's not one I'm going to rewatch a lot, but when you're in the right mood, it's shot on location. Mexico, it checks all the boxes for some of the stuff that you and I agree about that we like in movies: natural lighting, outdoors, real environments, not fake sets and all that for the most part. So I really appreciate that. And I just happen to like people that do stuff on super low budgets. I just think that they're able to somehow find a way through the creativity to get it shot the way they want it to look, rather than, like we were saying in chat about how when a director like John Carpenter, if you give him a big budget, he's going to make you a John Carpenter film, but it's going to feel like a Hollywood movie rather than a John Carpenter film. It loses something there. And to me, Robert Rodriguez, I remember that name because of this. He did the Sin City stuff, right? Mm-hmm. There's a kind of a similar thing to it. One thing I always liked about him is that he created a cable station called El Rey that I used to get. That and Chiller were my two favorite TV show cable stations for the longest time.
Chiller, that's
love Chiller and Stefan. But Robert created a lot of special content. He interviewed directors. He played Conan all the time. He had Richard Millis on there talking about apocalypse, all the scripts and stuff. And it was kind of like a manly exploitative type channel. And it brought back just how fun these kinds of movies are. They don't have to be deep. Critics hate them. Critics don't like them because they feel like they're not highbrow art. But the one thing I also remember, he did one of the best written TV shows that featured wrestling in it with great long-term storytelling that you and I have never really talked about too much because you and I on Backstage disagree on the current state of professional wrestling. And if you remember, they did Lucha Underground. And I just thought that was phenomenal. They wrote it with the Black Lotus Club, with Penta, who's now really popular in the WWE, and how he would break people's arms, and how he did it with the ladies, and they got revenge on him. And I'm not going to say anything unless somebody goes and watches it, but the mentor thing with one of the biggest Mexican guys there. Hats off to you for Robert Rodriguez for having your hand in a lot of different fires, writing, directing, photography, bringing stuff like that to life. I like those kind of people when they put something together.
You need to have that. And because I feel like that's kind of like when you have someone directing, but they're not writing it, they really have no control over the story. It's kind of like when they adapt like anime or manga into live action. Unless you have the person who actually wrote the actual source material, like a creator thing involved, it's gonna suck. And it's easier to have someone who actually writes the story, but also is a director. They know what they want to do and how to do it, so they write it. As reverse, you do have a writer who does not see the vision; they're just writing out the story. You know, the director is a guy who basically brings it to life. You know, the writer just writes a story, and you need to have that, and that's why it made Robert Rodriguez such a great writer / a director. You know.
Yeah, I mean, in 1983, I think it was, we reviewed years ago, Christine, which is a Stephen King story, right? But John Carpenter directed it. But John Carpenter's not fond of the story. And so you always thought, man, that was a match made in heaven, having those two guys, have him take some of King's visions, put them on there or something, and it just fizzled out. So that magic doesn't happen often. I mentioned Ty Weston here because he's most popularly known for Maxine, Pearl, and the other one. He did like a trilogy here, and they are really big. And I just watched the third one, and it did not let me down. But I'd mentioned him years ago in the Valley of Violence, The Innkeepers, House of the Devil, which I think is one of the earlier movies about 10, 15 years ago that started bringing back the retro 80s feel that you still see prevalent in some movies today. And Shudder has some stuff out that's retro, and there's a reason why people still want to go back to the 80s and film and all that, because that whole vision thing's there. And it's nice to be reminded that movies can be singular like this and a lot of fun. I think all this stuff's just really good. If you haven't seen Desperado, it's definitely a fun movie from the 90s.
I'll just say this: the fact that you have Robert Rodriguez and Quentin are best friends, I wouldn't be surprised to learn that Quentin Tarantino maybe had some creative input into this.
He is, but Tarantino is what I call a talky kind of director. I mean, his movies, people talk a lot.
Yeah.
And they're very dialogue driven.
So the whole
my nerves at times.
Which I think with Quentin Tarantino being involved in this, I wouldn't be surprised if Steve Buscemi is talking in the bar, and then you see Tarantino coming in and saying the talking guy.
Yeah.
You know, that looks like a Tarantino kind of thing.
You can tell.
And every time Tarantino plays a character in Robert Rodriguez's movies or stuff, he ends up getting killed.
Yeah. And you and I both love the TV show that was on El Rey, From Dusk to Dawn.
Actually, like I said, bringing it up, Verity said that it got horrible as it went on.
Yeah, last season.
I remember liking it. Yeah, it got weird towards the very end, but it ended on a happy note. Versus the movie, which movie just pretty much was just, I thought it was better than the movie, actually. The reason I bring it up because I like what's his name's son, Gary Busey's son, Jake Busey, in there.
Yeah,
sex god or sex machine, whatever it is. God, these. But I love the fact that the back lore too, as far as like the vampires,
Mexican culture.
Yep. That's
what that was before Breaking Bad did it.
It's also where we got Isa Gonzalez. Introduced her to her.
Oof.
Gonna do I know, right? Salma Hayek will always be the better Satana, but no, Rob and I did we not review it? Maybe I thought
I'd have to check the files.
I know we talked about it a lot when I was on. We watched it, but I don't think we ever reviewed it though.
Probably
we reviewed the movie.
Yes,
so I would agree that's something I would want to kind of review that show. Go back that, but we're also talking about reviewing the best show ever made for television by Michael Mann. That is Miami Vice.
It's probably coming in the spring here, right? Right after that.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Just Tuesday night, what do we have coming up?
On Tuesday nights, we got Tulsa King Tuesdays. We're doing that. And we episode 3 of Tulsa King.
And then after that will probably be Landman Tuesdays, right?
In November, yeah.
Yeah. And that'll take us through the holidays, and then we'll probably get into Miami Nights.
What a great holiday that would be! Great holiday that would be having Christmas or I don't know how long that's gonna be on. Probably be 10 episodes only, But
I used to play on El Rey all the time.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about landman holidays.
I know.
But anyway, like I said, we'll probably look at some more 90s movies, and because there's a lot that came out that I was looking at. That we probably should review sometime.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Desperado, 1995. Check it out. It's very sexy. When you watch it, you will feel sexy. So that's another reason why to watch some of these shows here. So I want to thank RDV for joining me tonight going over. I'm glad it was the first to watch RDV. A lot of times, honestly, I just assume you're going to tell me and I forget to ask. So it was a pleasant surprise because I just assumed, you being the 90s guy, that you'd seen it. So definitely talk some more about this. And guys, again, appreciate y'all retweeting the links out, trying to get a big audience as we watch all this too. It's been a lot of fun. If you got any holiday requests or scary movies or odd ones, let us know. We definitely get a few here and there. I know I'm starting to watch some movies just on my own that are Halloween movies or scary movies, because it's that time of year, bro.
Yeah. Plus, Tubi has a lot of movies that are rotating in and out and stuff. Also, and Netflix as well. So. Thank you for being here, Verity, and anybody else who might be watching the replay. If you made it this far, past 30 seconds, I'm shocked. It just seems that way people have like a short attention span. But we'll see you on Tuesday around 8 p.m. Eastern.
Good night now.
Later.